Hello, hello, eBay addicts, resellers, redistribution specialists, or whatever you identify as. Welcome to episode 136 of eBay the Right Way, our little reselling community here in podcast land. My guest today is Valerie in Texas. No announcements this week, so we will jump right in.
Welcome back, listeners. I have a fun guest. Not that other guests haven't been fun, but Valerie has a great sense of humor. So where are you located, Valerie?
We are in Lynchburg, Virginia. Right there in the central, right there in the middle of Virginia. That's where we are. My husband is a pastor here. We've been here for about 5 years now. So yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I just interviewed Julie, and her husband's a pastor. So
okay. I remember a Virginia one. You can edit that out.
That's okay, no problem. So apparently, reselling is a great side hustle for the pastor's family because you have to be on call for things and you're always busy. And I hadn't thought about that. I know it works great for teachers and nurses and stay-at-home parents and all that. But now we're seeing this group of pastors' families.
It's crazy because actually when we moved here in 2019, right before the pandemic, like we were here for about 6 months and then the pandemic happened. So that was fun. A whole new thing to navigate as pastors for everybody, but pastors were crazy too. It was just crazy.
Right.
But my friend who is the assistant pastor's wife, she's been doing eBay and you might want to talk to her sometime. She actually is the one that got me into you, told me to watch all of your podcasts, your YouTubes. That's where I was going. I was learning everything about you. She's amazing. She did her adoption. She through eBay, like she was able to raise the funds through selling on eBay. She
didn't buy her child on eBay. She raised the money she needed.
Let's be clear.
Yeah. See, I knew you had a great sense of humor.
No, she used eBay to raise funds and she was able to do it mostly through that. And she has a beautiful story with that. But she was always telling me about all of her great deals. And I've always loved good deals, but I was always just like, I don't know, it seems like a lot of work. But then, the pandemic happened and I saw her, she was like, things were even getting crazier. Like, that boom where everybody was talking about how eBay just exploded and all because everybody's at home, right? Yeah. So I actually finally started in August 2020. That's when I started. And so it was a little bit after the whole initial, but it was still a good time to get in on it. And just the first few sales and I was hooked. I was like, oh, I love this. I loved it. It was fun.
You've got 3 years under your belt.
Yeah.
Of reselling. Yeah. So I'd say you're pretty established.
Yep.
So where did you get stuff to sell? Were you getting it from people you knew or garage sales or when you started?
So I definitely did garage sales, but I also did Goodwill. And I guess Goodwill must have been opened again at that time because I was trying to remember everything. So Goodwill's had opened back up because that's where I first got my very first sales because I was trying to remember my very first sale on eBay. And it was actually a Subaru part that I found at Goodwill for $7. And it sold for, I think, $78. And so that was my first thing. It was a big box. And I was like, oh no, it's my first big box. I had called my friend and I was like, I'm stressed about the shipping, because once you figure out the shipping, the shipping to me was the scariest. I was like, I cannot do this. This is going to be crazy.
That's everybody who starts is, that's what I'm worried about is they worry about it before they even list anything or they don't think about it and they're like, oh no, this sold. What do I do?
And she just walked me through it. She's like, it's fine. And actually it came in a box. I'm like, is it okay to ship in the box? She's like, yeah, it's fine. Cause it was just a car part. So yeah. And that was exciting. That was my first official sale on eBay was a car part, which is
So
hilarious.
are you an auto mechanic on the side?
No, I'm not. It was just a random thing that I picked up because I remember probably seeing in with some of the groups that, OEM parts, they sell well. And it was just $7 at Goodwill. And my husband had been out with me and he was like, we learned how to look at the solds and stuff before we really even started listing. And, so he was looking. And then I ended up finding like the same day I had found like a pair of Giuseppe Zanotti, I think is what it is, some kind of designer brand that I didn't even know about. And I found those at Goodwill for $5 that day. And I sold them in like a week for $99. And I was super excited about that. Yeah. So like it was just
definitely gonna get you hooked. If you
can
can sell fun, beautiful shoes,
yep.
I mean, what woman doesn't like to buy shoes?
Right.
And
Yep.
then you can make money on those and then use that money to buy some shoes you can keep for yourself.
Yep. I know. I love it. That's what I do. I love buying the stuff for myself and then reselling it, which I know you do. And I've heard you say that you have stuff in your closet that's for sale that you wear until it sells. So that's I love that. We do that too. I was thinking about, since I'm listing Halloween stuff because it's, close. And I was like, I always pull out our old stuff and we list it and we always sell it. And then I take that money and buy what we need used, usually from eBay or Posh or whatever I can find it on. But we just flip it. And most of the time, especially like I had this Lightning McQueen like car pottery barn for Charlie, my son.
And that is from the Disney movie Cars.
Yes.
For those that aren't plugged into Disney movies.
Yes. He was like obsessed. So I looked and looked for that and I found it on eBay for really cheap. I think I had found it when somebody had just put it on and it was $30 and people were reselling them for like $99.
Mm-hmm. So
I grabbed that as soon as I saw it and then he wore it. The next year I sold it for $99. So like he wore it and we made money. So that was like, I love this. Like,
don't you love that? And yeah, I buy all my clothes when I'm out thrifting. Yep. And if it doesn't fit, I'll just sell it for 2, 3, 4 times what I paid for it. It's fine. I don't worry about returning stuff. And I won't even go into a retail store to buy clothes anymore because since COVID, half the time they don't have anything. They'll have a size 0 and a size 16 and like nothing in between. And you can't depend on going into a retail store for them having what you need anymore.
Right.
You go into a thrift store and it's, 90% clothing. You can find stuff brand new with tags and pay $3 or $4 for it. So why not?
That's the only way to live. I only buy stuff for way cheap. Like I hardly ever go into retail stores either. Like I can't do it.
Were you raised with parents who thrifted and were bargain hunters?
Well, we were raised, so like they didn't have money. My parents didn't have a lot of money, but I never really like had like the best of things, but we didn't shop a whole lot, which is crazy because like I love clothes and I love things. But yeah, they were frugal though, like because they had to be. So
right.
So actually probably though I learned so much more about being frugal with my husband, who is like the ultimate. He's Dave Ramsey Jr. That's what I feel like. He is just, he's a wizard. He's a wizard with money. He really is. So like, he's taught me so much about money. So I love saving money. I love being frugal when I make decisions for our family. So then we can splurge on other things. Like, like we're going to Greece in April, Josh and I.
Oh, nice.
We've never done that. And it's from being able to do like this reselling thing that I do. And it's added a lot to our lives.
That's so great to hear. That. Well, a lot of people who get into eBay say, oh yeah, my mom was a diehard thrifter. I grew up watching her do it and helping her do it. Or grandparents owned an antique store and so they were around it and they just know a lot of this. And then there's people like us that just kind of figured it out and put the thrifting stuff with eBay and just married those two together and like, wow, what a great combination. So Good for you. Now, Greece is on my list of places I want to go one day. So did you say you have kids?
Yes, we have 3. We have let's see, my oldest, her birthday is this weekend. She'll be 12. And then I have a 10-year-old little girl and then a 4-year-old boy. So, yeah.
Okay. So the kids won't be joining you on that trip.
No, they're not. We have never taken a trip for ourselves like this. So we're very excited. Yeah.
Good for you. Yep.
Yeah.
Do
excited.
it. Do it. Don't put it off. Good for
Yeah,
you.
we've done Disney and stuff with them, and I'm like, we need to take a trip for just us. So yeah,
yes, you do. Good for you. Okay. So you've got kids in the growing stages. Do you sell their outgrown toys and clothes and all that?
Yep, we do. We actually, a lot of times I'll let them have the money because if they're wanting to get something, like usually do it probably during the summer. Usually, as we clean out stuff, I'm like, why don't you guys get together? Because you know like the little small things, they're just everywhere. And I'm like, guys, we can bundle these all up together and sell them as like junk drawer toys, like, and that they've made money doing that. So we just get everything together in piles and we kind of separate it like just randomly, really. I don't know. There's not even a rhyme or reason. Sometimes it's just a bunch of like odds and ends. And like, I'll just advertise it as a junk toy lot and people buy them. And they're usually like $25, but that's $25 for them to put towards something that they want. So, and I like it because it's teaching them, a little bit about it. They want to do it. They ask me like, can I please? But I don't know. I probably should let them do it more, but I'm like, guys, no, because the pictures have to come out. You have to be able to take the pictures well. And then I'm going to have to go back and redo it, which is probably not good, but that, so I kind of like get in there and try to control things, but I probably need to let them do it, especially my 12-year-old. Like she's at the point now, she probably can take better pictures than me, really. So she could do it. So,
well, and I love how eBay teaches kids how to be resourceful. Like, I have this thing over here that I'm not using, and that can help pay for something I want now. And you get them in the habit of that early. So it is a habit. It's a lifestyle. It's not like buy all this stuff. And then your house is overrun with 4 million toys and most of them aren't even being touched.
Exactly.
That is definitely being frugal.
Yes.
Yeah. Good for you.
We do that, not to say that our house still isn't overrun with toys that don't get touched. Like we still
you do the best you can, but you always have your eBay glasses on where you're like looking around. Oh, okay, we're not using that. That doesn't fit you anymore. And I guess with the girls, the clothes get passed down to the second girl.
Yeah, clothes. It's not a lot of clothes. It's a lot of just like I said, we just put stuff together and sell it as lots, and that's pretty much with the kids stuff. That's what we do. Or we have yard sales for the big, huge items that take.
Right. That you don't want to do. You don't want to ship that. So let's talk about some other things that you've sold.
All right. Yeah. I have so many. I was like going through my, you have like your greatest hits album and you're like, what am I? Right. So, I was thinking probably like my most favorite thing that I've ever sold is a Ralph Lauren paisley, like a vintage paisley set that I found at Goodwill. And it was the comforter. I mean, it was the full set. It was the comforter, the sheets, the pillowcases, like all 4 pillowcase shams. Then it had curtains. And I'm talking like, I think it was like 12 curtain panels with all the tie backs and then like 8 valances. It was crazy. Okay. So like the comforter was not in, they have these big, huge, like bins where they just throw all like sheets and pillowcases.
Yeah.
And, like stuff like that. So they would sell those for $1. So I start looking at it. I almost passed it up because I thought they were ugly because they just not my style. But, then I'm like, oh, wait, that's Ralph Lauren. And I started looking at it and I'm like, oh, no, we're getting these. So I just start piling them in and I'm like, oh, my, there's so many. And then I look over and the comforter was hanging there. And I was like, and it was $12. And I didn't run any comps. I don't really like to run comps in the store. That's just my preference. I just don't like doing that. But
I totally get
it. Tons of people do. There's people, with their phones everywhere doing it. But so I was just like, I know it's Ralph Lauren. I'll definitely make money back. Well, then I get home and I start running comps and it was crazy. And and stuff was just selling. I mean, I split it all up because I'm like, I'll make more if I split it up. So I did like, I think 6. It was like 6 curtains, listings, all the balances. It was a bunch. By the end of it, it was over $800 in sales. Yes, and it was crazy.
Do you
So
remember
that
the pattern name?
it was. I don't.
Do you remember
And
what it looked like?
it was paisley, and it had like the jewel tones. It was like brown, burgundy, green. Yeah, it was crazy. And I think I kept posting about it like every week because it was like a few weeks, and I would be like on Money Making Mondays, and I'd be like,
Right.
look, wow, and like I was so excited.
Yeah, I was
So
like, oh, she sold some more of that, and there's
that,
another one.
yeah, it was crazy. I had so many, but that was just like it was over $800 in sales. I was like, that is insane.
And so,
But
what do you think your initial investment was? Like 20, 30
so
bucks?
yeah, it was $24 all in.
Okay.
Yeah, $24, and I think it was like $820 some was the profit.
That's
So,
outstanding. Good for you.
and then another favorite that I had was a True Religion hat, which I didn't know anything about True Religion. This is when I first got started, and it was Goodwill had dollar hats, so I always look at the hats because I like the vintage hats. Then I saw that one, I'm like, True Religion, I think that's a good brand, which I mean, it's kind of oversaturated now and died down, but I threw it in there. It's probably, yeah, I just didn't know. So I got home and it was like all distressed. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is going to sell. I couldn't find comps. Well, then I'm like looking and I found other comps that were kind of like it. And they were like $150. I'm like, what? I don't know. So then I just took a chance. I'm like, I'm just going to list it for $129.99 and just see what happens. It sold in 5 minutes.
You are kidding.
$129. I started getting messages within 10 minutes saying, I'll give you $250. And I was like, oh man. I was like, no, I have to honor this. Like, no, I can't.
Right. You've already committed to the
I was just
listing.
like, and because I couldn't find the comps. And then I was like, looking up, I'm like, why are people offering, like, why didn't I see this? Well, then I started looking more and I did find some more comps that were like 179 and 200 that weren't exactly the same. So it was just like, it was learning, but I was just like, my word. So it was $100 to $129 in 5 minutes. I remember I texted my husband, I was in bed because I was like listing in bed and I was like, I just listed this 5 minutes ago and it sold. It sold for 129. And I was like freaking out. So it was crazy. So that was like another favorite.
That keeps you hooked on eBay. When something like that happens. And I love that, well, at this point in time, today, Goodwill hats are $1.
Oh, good. Are they still?
Well, they are where I am.
Yeah.
Maybe not where everyone is, but
like
I remember in Atlanta, they were like $3 or $4. But so far, so good here until Goodwill in South Carolina listens to this podcast.
Right.
But no, they have so many, like they're not going to sell them if they keep raising the prices. So they can't jack the prices up on everything.
That's what I don't understand about sometimes the thrift store gouging. I'm like, I know you guys are watching, the resellers make all this money, but you're at this small place. Like, okay, if you want to be eBay, then put your stuff on eBay, but you're not eBay, like.
Yeah, they are doing.
Yeah.
I've seen job postings like on their window when you walk in the door, what they're hiring for. And a lot of times it's the e-commerce specialist where you're the person who lists things, but still they have to know what to pick to list because it's constantly changing. Like, would they have known that True Religion almost destroyed looking hat sell for so much? Like, they have their preconceived notions. I don't know what kind of research they do, how long they research something, because if you think about that intake room, it's always overflowing and they've got to get that stuff out there on the floor so it can sell. They can't have people sitting back there all day researching every single thing.
Yeah. That's why I say you have so much stuff, guys. Like, you're not going to be able to keep up with all this. Like, you're getting so much every day. Like, just get rid of it, Well,
and I mentioned this before, but now all of our Goodwills have gone to this pricing system for the hard goods. I call it the stuff in the back, where like part of the week, everything's $4. I don't care what it is, toys, kitchen stuff, whatever. And then it drops $2 on Friday, and then $1 on Saturday, and then 50 cents on Sunday. So which I think is ridiculous because people aren't going to buy it for $4. They're going to wait till Saturday or Sunday. And then you have a mob scene back there of everybody trying to buy stuff. But I don't think it's going to work. I think they're going to have to change that back because who's going to pay $4 for a coffee cup when you know you can get it for 50 cents on a different day?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Mark Cuban says, don't start a company unless it's an obsession. And if you have an exit strategy, it's not an obsession. But is obsession really the virtue to build your business on? I'm Cannon Carr, and on my podcast, Business Owner Tales from the Trenches, you'll hear from business owners and entrepreneurs on what they've found to be the keys to building and sustaining success. And spoiler alert, an exit strategy is often one of those keys. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and businessownertales.com, where we post new episodes every other Tuesday.
Yeah,
crazy. That is crazy because, that used to be what, $5 for $1 for glassware?
I think everyone
here was $5 for $1.
Every state is different. I mean, I used to see things for 10 cents. And I was actually talking to another customer in line the other day, and she says, I quit donating to Goodwill. I'll shop here, but I'm not donating because they're just too greedy. So she was talking about I donated to the animal shelter thrift store or something else, where they're not so greedy. And that's what's happened is, and when you're greedy, that's when you get in trouble. That goes for anything. So
I agree. I feel very much the same. I do shop at Goodwill because we don't have a lot of thrift stores here.
Right.
And where we have a lot, there's 6 Goodwills in our area and there's tons of resellers in it, but it's all that we really have there. I know you're from South Carolina. I was in Seneca, South Carolina.
Okay.
For right before we moved here. So we were there for 4 years. He was pastor.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, that's about 45 minutes from me.
Yeah. Yep. So he loved it there. But there's so many thrift stores in South Carolina. I mean, so many. And I'm like, that aren't just Goodwill. So I was like,
right.
I wish I would have done reselling while I was in South Carolina because within a mile where I lived, I remember I was counting. I was there was 6. And I'm like, how much stuff did I miss? So
you can't get to them all. There's too many. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I would much rather give my donations to people that are little thrift stores that are trying to make it over the big corporation.
Like the hospice thrift store. And then there's Miracle Hill, which is it's a church kind of thrift store, just places like that where corporate greed is not involved.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, moving on from that topic. What else is on your list?
All right, let me think. So, okay, I have a Madewell coat that I got from our Goodwill here. It was $8, and it was actually I got home because it was a leather. It was a leather coat because I don't get a lot of Madewell because I know sometimes it can be oversaturated. But it was just a really nice. I could tell I liked it. I was like, I'm gonna keep this for myself. Well, then I got home and was looking at the comps, and it was leather. And it was really nice, and I found out it was from a movie. I think it was Black Widow. One that Scarlett Johansson was in.
Okay.
And it was the same one that she wore in the coat. And I actually put that in the listing and I sold it for $259 within 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
And so, because I had saw that in the, when you look up the solds, I found one that was like that. And I was like, well, I'm going to do that because there were others that hadn't sold yet. And they were up there, but putting that Black Widow in the title, I think helped. And it sold within 3 days for $259. So I paid $8.
Oh my gosh, that's a great. And you're right. I love when these clothing items are in specific movies or TV shows, and that increases the value.
Yeah, and it's just crazy because it was just I didn't know. I just oh, this is cute. This is a nice leather. You just pick stuff up sometimes that is just nice. You can tell it's nice quality, so you pick it up. And,
right. Yeah, you can tell by the way it feels.
Mm-hmm.
It's just intuitive, obviously, because you know what a cheapo one feels like, and then you feel like leather that's just that beautiful, buttery, soft leather. It's like, oh, okay, this is This is not pleather,
Right.
which is the fake, I call it pretend leather. I think it's like polyurethane, but I call it pretend leather, pleather.
Yeah. Leather. Yeah.
It's like peels and flicks off, and it's
That's
like,
the
yeah,
worst.
this is fake.
Worst.
No good.
For
Okay,
sure.
brand was Madewell for people that are learning clothing brands. Okay, yeah, that's
like a step up from J. Crew. They're owned by J. Crew, so I think
yes.
it's Madewell, J. Crew. I think that's how it goes.
It's kind of along the lines of Anthropologie.
Yeah.
Some of their stuff is really trendy looking, and then some of it is really plain looking. It's just made well.
Yep, it is. It is. So yeah, I would say coats, especially like jackets, Madewell jackets, and like their staple pieces. I think Madewell jeans usually sell pretty well. I think, from what I remember, I have sold several pair of Madewell jeans, so they do pretty good. But then I know sometimes things get saturated. You know, it's like as we find out, everybody starts listing their stuff, and it kind of slows down. It feels like.
Well, and I don't think it's so much like all the online resellers telling everybody what to sell, because I mean, you got to be able to find it.
Right.
It's more like supply and demand. You know,
you
something first is in that introductory stage and it catches on. Everybody wants it, because the harder it is to find, the more people want it and the more they'll pay. And then it gets to the maturity cycle of the, you know, product life cycle thing. And it's not so hard to find. Like every product, if you think back, like Crocs is a good example. When that first came out, they weren't everywhere.
Yeah.
Now they're everywhere. There's all these off-brand copies, and like no big deal, unless it's just something special, you know, a special collaboration or a special edition or something. But yeah, everything went through. Vineyard Vines went through that. It's just, it was a newer on the scene, and now it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny because then you have to like retrain your reseller brain, be like, nope, this is not working anymore. So put that down. You don't need it. Yes, it worked 2 years ago. It's not working now. Put it down.
I have a problem with that, just like everybody else. Like, oh, you just grab it because you know, but then like, okay, wait a minute. Why am I buying this?
Right.
I have 10 of them and they're not selling. So I need to find like, what's the next product that is sort of new on the scene and in short supply. Because you can't really count on, like in fashion, like, yes, there's a lot of vintage fashion that has come back or will never go out of style, like St. John, that's going to be a thing forever because it's very well made, but you just can't count on something lasting forever anymore.
Right.
So okay, what else do you have?
I have a whole list here. Let's go back. This is really cool. Because so as you can see, I'm kind of like all over. Like I don't have like a niche. I kind of just bounce around with the whatever. I'm like, it's always like a yard sale. On my eBay, it looks like a yard sale. Like you don't know what you're going to find. Yeah. So flea market. We have flea market here that I do love to go to. And so I went, and there's this one guy that I absolutely love. He's a little hippie. I love him so much. He has his big old green van. He's amazing. But anyways, I go to him all the time and wheel and deal with him. But he had like this huge box of almost probably like a big boot box, I mean like a shoe boot box. And it was full of recipes. And some of them were handwritten and some of them were just tossed in there and just cuttings. And I was like, how much do you want for these? Because I think I had saw somewhere that, you know, the recipes do okay. So I was like, how much? And he was like, oh, you can have those. I was like, really? I was like, all right, I think, you know, so like I took them. Okay, so I listed it. I broke them up in lots. They were probably like 400 recipes. I broke them up in lots as like just handwritten. And I was looking at comps, like, you know, even putting like a state in them, things like that. And I sold the first lot within like a day or two. I think it was like 2 days. And the first lot was 75. And then it was like another lot sold like a couple days later for like 60. I think it was an offer of like 60. I mean, all in, I had over $350 made from those box of recipes. And I was just like, this is insane. You know?
That's fantastic. Now, were they just handwritten on like 3x5 cards?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, some of them. And then there was clippings. So like I just mix them up. Some of them I listed, like I took, because some of them look like obvious sets, like somebody had written out that they were obvious sets that somebody had. And So I listed them, I took those as a lot and listed them. And then some of them were just like the clippings and some of them were handwritten, just pieces of paper. And I just put that in there, like handwritten clippings. Like I just wrote that out in the listing, and yeah, they all were just selling for great. I think it was like five lots, I think is about what it was. So 5 lots, $350 from a free box of recipes.
And I wonder, are people doing something specific with these other than just being interested that they're old and they're handwritten, probably some in cursive?
Yep.
Like, are people putting them in books, like make scrapbooks? Are they just using them? Are they just sick of the internet? Like, what are people?
I don't know. That's what I try to figure out, and I was looking through them and I was like, oh, this is cool. I feel like this is like what my grandma used to make. And I'm like, are these people looking for a recipe, like a certain recipe, or is it somebody that loves to cook and they're just trying like new things? Because I was thinking we should pick some of these recipes and just make some, like just for fun, and I'm not really have any interest. So I'm like, so there probably are people that just like to do these kinds of things. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in 1966, and I have tried recipes like having it on my phone or having it on my laptop in the kitchen, and I just don't like it. I just like to look at that piece of paper. And yes, it gets food splatters and it gets old looking. I don't know. It's just something about like pulling out my mother's recipe for carrot cake and remembering her make it. Obviously, if you buy somebody else's recipes, you're not going to have that memory. Well, I mean, like if it was a specific dish, but so I am putting all my recipes like that my kids like on Google Drive on a shared folder. So like they can have them and stuff. But when I'm cooking, I just prefer to look at a piece of paper. I don't know if that's just the way my brain works or what.
I'm the same way. I'm a millennial, so I just prefer it because I don't like having to have. I'm a messy cook, so then I got stuff on my hands. I'm trying to like scroll on my phone.
That's exactly right. Like, how are you supposed to? Oh, my laptop went to sleep. Now I got to wake it up, and I got stuff all over my hands.
Yeah, no, I would much rather look at like a recipe book or one of those cards. I'm very much like that too. So.
We'll be back after a quick break.
A yoga instructor, a business coach, and a pet insurance rep walk into a bar. Now, I'm going to spare you the punchline to that, but all three of them have something in common. They've all sold millions of dollars in services to the U.S. government. The U.S. government buys everything you can think of. I'm Ricky Howard, former procurement officer and host of the DoD Contract Academy podcast. Head on over to the DoD Contract Academy podcast to learn how you could sell products and services to the U.S. government.
Okay, well, good to know.
So
you're a progressive millennial then, if you're not, you're rejecting technology in the kitchen.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's funny. Another thing that was cool is a 5-star binder that I got, which, remember those? I had those when I was little. Everybody wanted 5-star. So I found it and I was like, oh, this is cool. Just nostalgic, really, for me. I didn't look up comps. Well, I think it wasn't worth that much. I think I put it on there for $49.99, but it sold. And then I was like looking at the, I was going to put the label on, and it was going to Pretty Little Liars set. And I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, so that was exciting. I was like, oh, that's so cool. So I don't know if they use it for like a flashback scene or something. I don't know, but I was just like, oh, that's cool.
Well, I knew the Trapper Keepers, which is what we had in the 80s, were a thing. I didn't realize the 5 stars.
5-star. It was just one that I had got. It wasn't like, I think I paid like $2 for it. It sold for 50. So it was like, it was decent. It's pretty good.
Hey,
yeah.
You can't complain about that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's really exciting.
Not going to break. You don't have to it's not clothing. It probably wouldn't be returned. All that good stuff.
Right. Yeah, I know. And I thought that was just a neat one. I was like, cause I've seen people say, that stuff goes to movie sets, and I was like, oh, this literally says Pretty Little Liars. And I was like, oh,
that is great. I bet that made your day.
Yeah, it was so cool. And then another thing that I like to do is like, if I accidentally like go to throw something out and then look it up and it's like a surprise, and you're like, oh, so I had someone gave me, actually it was the, you're probably going to know, I don't know why it's slipping my mind. The Christmas villages, they're like the really popular ones.
Apartment 56.
Yeah, there you go. I had somebody give me their whole entire set and it was massive, and I feel bad, but I sold them all.
Don't feel bad.
But in the huge boxes of stuff was these hooks, these hook looking things. I'm like, what are these? They're just like these little wooden hooks. They had like these little balls on the end. I didn't know what they were. I'm like, I'm just gonna put that in the give to Goodwill pile. And so then I'm like, I just took a picture of them and did Google Lens, and then I found them. They came up as LL Bean Christmas stocking, like the hook. They're like hooks that you put in the fireplace, but they're strange looking because they don't look like normal hooks. Anyway, so then I was like,
They have like a flat part on the top where you rest it on the mantle.
it's almost like a curved L almost. It was like not like a. So I don't know how I still to this day can't figure out how they hang them.
So it wasn't obvious how they attach it to the mantle.
Not to me. Anyways,
okay, I can see where that would be confusing then.
Yeah. So I found that they were LLB, and they were going for good money, and I was like, oh, so I listed them for $79.99, and there was 8 of them, and they sold within 2 days. It was full price, no questions, it's full price. And I was like, I must do this in the trash.
No, you got to check everything.
I know you do. It's just like things that you learn along the way. It's just crazy. Cause then this is kind of on my side gig, I do WhatNot, and I actually sell luxury on WhatNot.
Yeah, I wanted to hear about that.
Yeah, so I branch off from that, but that was another thing. I sell scarves is my specialty, like Hermes and Chanel and those kinds of scarves is what I sell. So anyway, I get them in lots internationally. I source them internationally, and I get them in lots. And so sometimes like I go through initially, and like I can tell, like at this point I'm good at telling if they're fake or if they're just not anything. So I just make piles immediately. And I threw one in a pile that was really pretty, but I was like, I don't have time to look for that. Anyways, so I threw it over there and was like, oh, look, I'll get to that later. Well, then I was like, I have these things where I say I have clear out shows of my like throwaway things. So then I'm going through that again to look at it. And there was a really beautiful, it had deer on it. And I'm looking at it closely. I'm like, that says Hermes. I'm like, I could tell it was an old one. I'm like, I don't know. So then I start doing all this research, and I found out it was from the 60s. It's a very rare piece, and they're sold for $800. I almost let go for $1. But I have a lady that is actually a client now that I kind of work with off just this by myself now, but she got it. She paid $500 for it and had it framed, but it was one that I almost threw out. And I'm just like, it's just,
you need like the pre-trash box. Like,
yeah.
I'm thinking about throwing this away, but I need to evaluate it first.
Yep, that's what I do.
You have all these different boxes of the stage something's in, like need to be researched. Okay, researched. Or maybe I should check this again.
That's what I do now, especially. So yeah, on WhatNot, it's been interesting because that's my primary focus now is WhatNot, because I've heard you talk about how you like to get rid of things fast now, like you like. So if you like that, then you would love WhatNot because you get rid of.
Can you do a quick tutorial on how it works?
Yes, I think so. So like first, it's on an app. You can, if you share it, then you could say, here's the link to WhatNot. And then if they click on it to them, you get $10 on their first purchase, and they'll get $10 off their first purchase. And so I'll go back into explaining it. So you get the WhatNot app, and you, every category, any category imaginable. So have you been on at all?
I thought it was something tied to YouTube.
No, WhatNot is a live selling. It's live selling.
Okay.
Style. Okay. So you get on there and you're just like, you would do, like, if I'm on there, you're just watching me. I don't see you. You can chat. You can chat with people.
Okay. So it's like a live stream, but you're selling.
Yes. And so you're part of the chat, and I'm showing you like what I have. I'm like, here's an Hermes scarf that I got. I usually have like the retail value is $500, but I'm crazy and I start my stuff for $1. So like I will start it for $1, and usually they'll sell for about $120. I usually have, depending on the lots. Sometimes I source them individually so I can pay like $70 for them. But if I'm getting them in lots, I can keep my margins very, very good, like $5 sometimes. So like if I'm selling it for $120. But then, so that's my first thing. But then you just go into the next one. So then usually I have about 40 items sold. So then by the end of the show, usually there's about $3,000 and you immediately can cash out. And so it's like a quick return, a quick flip. And yes, you will get more. Here's the thing is that you get more on your products on eBay. You will, but you have to let them sit. And
Right.
but on WhatNot, I've got addicted to the quick flip. So I like getting them in and getting them out. The shipping's crazy because then you have like 40 boxes to package up within 2 days.
I wouldn't mind that at all.
I think you would like it because there's all kinds of categories. Any category is on there pretty much. There's toys. I mean, every kinds of toys. There's like Funko Pops are huge on there. Pokemon, that's all huge on there. But there's vintage, there's estate sales, there's luxury, there's mid-range, there's women's, there's men. I mean, every category, just like, it's crazy. I keep saying like, this is going to end. eBay is going to buy them out and just shut them down. Like, that's what I keep saying.
So what people are going to want to know is how do you get found on WhatNot so that people can even buy your stuff? Do you have to build an audience like Instagram and all that?
Kind of. Yes. So like, it's really just like, you just scroll. So it's almost like you're on there and it's like, I always say it's almost like being on TikTok because you just go next video. Like if you're not interested, you can just scroll.
Okay.
And it's just people and, people just selling whatever and you can click your interest. So like, yeah, I just didn't know anybody the first time I did it and just went on and now I did put it on like my Facebook and told people I was going to have my first show, but I didn't have anybody actually come that I knew, but you'll have people in there. And I say at the beginning, don't expect a lot, but you will grow. And it's just like, you just keep going and it's fun. I started this in March and I'm up to 4,000 followers now. And I average about 30 to 40 people in my shows and usually probably around like complete profit, usually around $1,200 per show.
That's great. I just Googled quickly how many users are on WhatNot. And it says 2 million. 2 million is not bad. And then how popular is WhatNot? Interest in WhatNot grew 73% over the past year. And that's a 2023 stat. So people are using it. What would you say the number one benefit is over eBay? Is it just how fast you can sell things?
Yeah, for me it is. Yes, it's how fast it is, and it's how fast it is and how much you can get at once. It's like you get that payout, and you're like, oh, that's great because on eBay, depending on how hard you grind on eBay though, because like I don't have a lot of time to just list anymore because our kids are all involved in every sport. We're just on the go.
Yes.
And that's why I like to take like 3 hours after they go to bed. I go on at night. I go on at like from like 9 to like sometimes 1 a.m. Eastern time because California is
right
behind. So I go on for 3 hours and get that quick flip. And usually I can do 2 nights a week. So that's a pretty good, it's really changed it's changed a lot for us.
So do you do it on WhatNot first? And then if it doesn't sell, then you put it on eBay?
Yes. And, I have brands that I just get kind of killed on WhatNot, like Etro scarves or like they'll sell for like $4 on WhatNot. And I'm like, this is like $150 scarf. It just went for $4 because some brands aren't as familiar.
Right.
And then I'll put them on eBay. I pull those and I consistently sell those for $60. I mean, I could probably go higher, but like if I want that quick, because now I've gotten, so I just go a little lower and I just take that. So yeah, I can consistently sell them from like 60 to 70.
So I would imagine for people wanting to learn more, their best next step would be just to go on it, watch some people selling stuff, just see how all that works and give it a try. I mean, it can't be that complicated to learn.
It's not. And I would say that Also it's a good place to source. I've bought stuff, like not really
Great
luxury.
idea. Yes.
It is. I've bought stuff on there and I source and I flip it on eBay all the time. Because stuff is very cheap. Because it's what's different about Whatnot is I feel like people are coming there to get low deals. It's people that I feel like there's a lot of resellers on there.
Okay.
And that's why I think, 2 million is a small compared to eBay, like that's
Absolutely. But it's significant. That's a lot of people.
yeah. So, but people are on there getting, because I'm talking about these brands like All Saints, Good American, like they're going for like $4. It's crazy. It's crazy. So like I do not shop anywhere anymore. Like it's so cheap. It's crazy.
Well, thanks for that quick introduction because, resellers are always looking for what's the next thing. And, in my history, I tried Etsy. I couldn't really get traction there because I just didn't have enough specialty items. I did Amazon for years, and then that got to be a rat race and it wasn't fun anymore.
Yeah.
There's Mercari, there's Ruby Lane, there's, you can sell on Instagram too, right?
I think so. And TikTok is doing it too now.
Right. So like there's all these platforms and for the listeners, you just have to see what works for you. What do you like? What's going to work for you and your product? Because, Etsy was all the make it yourself stuff and vintage. So if you don't have those two things, it's not going to be for you. So I appreciate that quick introduction. So yeah, if you're interested, listeners, do your homework and go check it out and see if that's something you want to try. And you're never going to know if it works unless you try it. Yep. So who knows? Maybe I'm going to try it. I don't know.
I think you'd be great at it, actually. I promise you. I think anybody can do it. It's easy. All you need is a phone.
I don't mind being on camera and holding up stuff and talking about it.
Yeah, you'd be great at it. Honestly, you should do it.
I'll look into that. Okay. Well, we are getting to the end here. Do you have any final words? Did you want to answer one of those questions at the end?
Sure, we can. I was thinking about it. I like, I love to read, but in this season, I haven't been able to read as much. So, because I was like, what's my favorite? I haven't read a book since vacation this summer, and I love to read, but that's not where I am. I love podcasts. I'm a true crime junkie. Like that's my go-to. So, like, actually, one of my favorite podcasts is called Going West. It's a good one. It's just they talk about like cases, new and old. It's fun. I love that. That's one I listen to probably the most. And then I love another one called Popcast, and it's just like pop culture, and it's a fun one because I like things that I don't really have to think about a lot because I'm just listening.
Yeah, with 3 kids and a busy husband and all this reselling, you kind of need some downtime where you're not focused and concentrating. Everybody needs that. So, okay. Well, thanks for those suggestions. It's been so fun meeting you. And so what are your plans for eBay? Just more of the same?
Yeah, probably. So I that's one thing I was thinking about. Like as I listed and was looking back through like my greatest hits, I was like, oh, I kind of missed this. I kind of missed this, like some of this just like this is pure, man. Like this joy from like just getting this stuff is so fun. So honestly, it's kind of motivated me again to get back into this because I do have a great potential pile still in my garage that I need to go through. And so I'm probably going to keep doing both, honestly, as I can. So, and that's what I love about eBay is that, in different seasons, there's seasons where I go hard and can be crazy and, bring in crazy amounts. And then there's times where I can kind of cool off and stuff is still selling. And that's what I love it. So I don't going to leave eBay anytime soon.
That's everybody. You just have to do it at a pace that works for you in your life. And it changes over time. Like when your girls are older and driving and you're going to have more time because you don't have to drive them everywhere.
Right.
So Excellent. Well, it's been so fun to meet you, and we will watch for more of your amazing sales on the Facebook group.
I love posting there. I love reading that. That is so informative. I love that the Monday and the supersize sale. Like, I love it so much.
So do I. I can't wait to see it every week. Okay. Well, enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much, Valerie, for sharing all that great information. And if you want to check out Valerie's WhatNot channel, her username is Mommy Moves Val. I mean, she did say she starts her items out at $1. So maybe you could grab a few things to resell for profit on eBay. Just some food for thought. Moving on to today's trivia question. And I'll be honest with you, I had to look this one up because I wasn't sure what it meant. Valerie mentioned selling an automobile part and referred to it as an OEM part. What exactly does that mean? Here's some time to think about it. OEM stands for Original Equipment Manufacturer, the original manufacturer of the auto part sold. So like the original rear view mirror or sun visor that comes with a car when it was originally made. It hasn't been replaced, it is the original part. And yes, I am keeping this easy for those of us who are not mechanics and don't know what all those parts under the hood are called. OEM is used in many different industries: computers, electronics, kitchen appliances, anything that is manufactured with multiple parts. So the opposite would be aftermarket parts, which are replacement parts that are not made by the original equipment manufacturer, such as replacement windshield wipers on cars, consumables like printer ink, or maybe a new lid for your Vitamix that isn't Vitamix brand, but a generic brand that fits. So anything that didn't come with the original product. If you have been seeing the acronym OEM parts on listings, now you know what that means. Okay, another successful episode in the books. Next week, my guest is Melissa in Texas, who juggles a full-time job, family, and reselling business. She has some great tips for finding inventory when time is limited. Like many of you listening, she is setting up an eBay business for when she transitions to retirement in a few years. Thanks again for tuning into my podcast, and I hope everyone has a profitable and productive week on eBay. Talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.